Thank you very much also for your nice words and a very warm welcome to everyone. And yeah, my huge apologies. It was 10 to 7 this morning when I started my journey to come to you to Munich, and my car would just pop up 7 different error messages. And I made a video. Nowadays, you make a video of all the error messages to convince the service technicians, and it wouldn't start. The whole car just wouldn't start. So this is the software-defined vehicle. However, I also have to immediately say that the OEM who's providing the car has a supreme service. They are already here. They took my car. I have now a car in exchange, and I'm still mobile. So mobility is absolute guaranteed. And hey, I don't know what the problem was, but yesterday just parked the car, and this morning was complete mess. The complete car didn't start. So these are the new electrical powered cars of the world. However, let me start my presentation, and I would like to share with you how in ZF we are going to mine the next goal for corporate data. And since I'm only here virtually and you see me now on street, I try to perform an extra effort to be alive and kicking, and I promise to all of you, I am not an avatar. It's the real me. However, I cannot prove it to you. As you all know, it's just a video stream. But so we talk about automotive logistics, and what is the most important aspects in the logistics? Of course, if you mine data, it's the interconnected elements of data. So maybe now somebody will help me with clicking on the next slide. Very short, since we have only a few minutes, I would like to talk about, by the way, someone should, yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, who are we? I just throw in some numbers. Right now, roughly 44 billion euros turnover. That means we are the third largest automotive supplier. We are relevant in all passenger cars as well as commercial vehicle aspects in supplying parts for the automotive logistics. We are also in the industry sector supplying parts for wind turbine systems, and all of it makes us, run here from Lake Constance, where I am right now, in the beautiful scenery. We run this complete company and excel by delivering parts of high quality to the automotive industry. But let's not focus on the company, focus on what we are doing. And digitalization, as Christopher already said, I'm ever since running from a business point of view, IT, process, and digital aspects. Let's click on the next slide. I always like to start the overview with our overall strategy. So, and we call it in ZF, now.digital. And the aim is what you see in the very top, no, this way, in the very top, what is it, left part of the slide. The aim is not to apply technology. The aim is to make life for ZF associates easier, easy to co-create, create value for customers, be fast in decision making, and so on. This is the primary goal. And then we have some in-between goals where we, increase the speed and agility, enhance employee worker experience, of course, gain productivity, and then our measures. All of these squares with a lot of measures starts, of course, with embracing mindset. So it's how do we, basically teach people how to perform new processes. Then, of course, how we exploit data. Then how we create our digital core. And here I will show you what I mean, because that's important for automotive logistics, I would say. And more, we are also creating here and there some platforms and so on and so forth. And the new kid on the block, of course, is generative AI. And I will talk and I will have a very much a focus on it, because I'm convinced, and I can show to you that this new technology, this new way of working, this new change in our process landscape will have a very positive impact on supply chain information. So if you click once, before we start to dig into data, I would like to rest a few minutes on this slide. It looks fancy, and we will later also see that's already generated with generative AI. Quickly, so, and it was it's nothing brand new. It just says that a company in ZF, we strive to become a very efficient company that has processes that completely are integrated. That we depicted them. They are, of course, described and agreed upon, idea to launch, order to cash. You all know that this is not something brand new, but we are right now laying the foundation by rolling out a complete set of processes available for the whole company. And they are here to serve the basic business capabilities that every company needs to perform. Everybody needs a sales planning, everybody needs to run their production order processing or outbound logistics or inbound, whatever. Those are just examples. And this is implemented by a set of products. This is not a technical architecture. This is basically our digital core. And this is what I am, not me, but my teams are implementing for all of ZF. So we implement a next generation PLM, so product lifecycle management, then the integration to next generation ERP. That means that all the processes you see on top, covering all the business capabilities, are implemented in one environment. Of course, technically on base of S/4HANA, as you all know, it's also a RISE system, SAP RISE. And then it's framed and surrounded by, on the left side, our manufacturing platform, because we need to dig data out of our production processes with IoT-based scenarios. All the machines in all of our plants deliver their data they produce during the production in our manufacturing platform, the digital manufacturing platform, the DMP. And this is what we use then later to understand efficiencies in our supply chain. And on the right side, of course, we do not focus only on the process, also on HR. So how do we basically maintain the right level of know-how and the ability for people to learn and adapt? And here's something so if you talk about digitalization in all aspects, not only logistics, you always have to think about that more and more, especially with Gen AI, what I will focus on in the next slides, is more and more we have to talk about that experience is less and less important, and the adaptability, the ability to change and adapt to new processes will become even more important. There are scientific studies that say that we in future need to enable our workforce to follow this speed of change. And that's super important, because any change only happens if people understand. So that's why we have a complete, say, holistic view on our digital core, covering how we maintain the increase of knowledge and skills for people, and on the other side, how we make the processes as flawless and as easy as possible. And of course, and this is my say a funny picture, we have the ocean of data, and then infusing the data and the capabilities. This is just a picture, but it reminds ourselves that we must use what we produce in our manufacturing platform, what we produce in our product lifecycle management, and produce in ERP and HR, to combine and give it to generative AI. And here, ZF, we have, this is also visible in the press announcement, for now 2 years already started to embrace all of this in one ZF cloud. And now this comes in very handy, because in this ZF cloud, we have already implemented the generative AI solutions I will talk about on the next slide. So please go on. That's the gospel. This is how we are going to change ZF. And on the next slide, you see how we are now creating or designing high-tech processes, because all these, from idea to launch, so product lifecycle management, to order to cash, to make sure that we produce what's needed and deliver accordingly, all creates a set of processes, and hence one data in the ZF cloud that we use. And here we have started some months ago already on our generative AI journey. And before I talk about generative AI, let's roll a video. On the next slide, you will see what I mean when I talk about generative AI in ZF. So our goal is clear. We will become one of the top automotive corporates to apply generative AI technology, of course, with the aim to highly automate our business processes, to the max. And this is very, very important to say. We are not generating our own large language model. We apply given, say, scenarios on the market to be able to always foster the latest innovation in this ever-changing market right now. And here, I really want to stress one argument that I would say from now on, there cannot be any logistics company conference anymore, or any logistics presentation without the proper implementation of AI or Gen AI ideas, because this will dominate in future the way we are finding efficiencies and understanding how the interconnectivity of the data will flow. So processes will be enhanced by Gen AI, and I will focus on this because I think this is super important to grasp. And you saw already in this very motivating video that we have created, we have created for internal use our own chat.zf. Again, it's nothing we will put outside. It's nothing. There's no business model besides only helping us to be more efficient in future. But let's talk about the Gen AI story. On the next slide, I show first a very, very quick slide, and there should be a video running. We have two different animals, and it's for everybody super important to understand the analytical AI is what you use for years already. And the generative AI is the brand new kit, and it's not like just an extension, it's a complete new world. And you see already these pictures we used on the architecture slide before were generated with generative AI. Okay, here, this is more like a small, say, funny information. But analytical AI is what we use for years already. And this is more like a tool that can be applied, or a set of tools that we simply apply, and we have a good understanding on the efficiencies we can achieve. But in Gen AI, we come into a new world where we need to interact, where we have the idea, okay, I need to create a report because I need to better understand the behavior of stock movements in a certain plant situation, or in intralogistics. And whenever you start to analyze, whenever you start to think about it, then artificial or say generative AI will become your buddy. Somebody said some weeks ago, some months ago, that as today it feels already a bit outdated to write a handwritten email to someone. You know, handwritten emails. Okay, we will still do this, but it's a special activity. And this is the same in future if we have a communication in between people without Gen AI. So writing the email without Gen AI is the same like today handwritten emails to compare with normally Outlook communication. So what do I talk about? Okay, the first, and on the next slide, the first implementation, of course, it is, and I can highly recommend everybody else for the company to get acquainted with it with software. Because there are studies, there's a very good study from McKinsey that I can highly recommend everybody to read. It says that the huge amount of savings we are all going to generate will be basically applied in 4 areas. And one, of course, is software, the biggest one. The second is R&D, because you create products and creation is highly supported by generative AI. And the 2 other ones are in customer interactions and sales in general. So those 4 areas will have a huge impact. And sales and customer interaction always directly impacts the supply chain. So that's why we need to get an understanding. And coding with GitHub Copilot, we have run several pilots. I can share with you, this is highly efficient and people love it. So everybody should start this as soon as possible with any solution given. We have chosen Microsoft Copilot, but there are other solutions out there, whatever is of interest. On the next one, and also, if you read the current studies, you will understand that our work in our, say, logistics departments or whatever department in the company, to 70 to 75% relies on natural language interaction. So we talk to each other or we write to each other. So improving exactly on this level will greatly improve the level of automation in our organizations. So we have started with several help bots and also let here help bots interact with humans without manual intervention anymore. And here again, we have in the last month where we started our pilots, we see great improvement or efficiency gains by reducing manual interactions and answering questions, finding information, the how-tos, how to create a knowledge, a knowledge base for people, how to educate people, how to onboard people. There's so many ideas that will effectively lead to a more efficient organization by just adding and training the GenAI component to your content. And on the next slide, this is basically, so we have started in ZF a set of pilots, and we are offering, again, for ZF, 2 ways to deal with generative AI solutions. One is the Bing Enterprise. So this is a protected, this is the left side, protected way. I guess most of you have already started to experience either the ChatGPT in OpenAI or the other implementation in Bing. This is the Bing implementation, and if you have the contracts, you can do it in a secured way in the company. It must be tested, it must be proven. So, but the possibility is there to get just to understand the technology. And on the right side, it's our chat.zf. This, of course, comes also with an interface, but the most important aspect is on the right side, we come with an API. So if we now create processes where we have these sets of documents, then we deliver these documents to the GenAI engine, and we deliver also the question that needs to be reviewed. For example, here we have some planning information. Please concile the information or consolidate and do a summary. And we can do that in overnight runs, and then we have the results for later processes. So we can create a process step, and that's important because processes are the ones that will lead to highly efficient supply chain and also will help us to mine the corporate data. So what kind of process are we talking about? On the next slide, I have now 2 examples, and if this is looks very fun, but also is generative AI. We must not in any company create pilot after pilot after pilot, because then we just have small, interesting implementations, but the real efficiency comes not with a graveyard of a lot of pilots, but more with an integration in a process. On the next slide, you see what I mean. It will slowly build up. So on base of our architecture that I showed in the beginning, we have the end-to-end processes. And one is idea to launch. That, of course, refers to the V model, how we create products and how we do software. And there are certain steps in the V model. So we do requirements engineering, then we do the software development for the product. We do verification, testing, documentation, and so on and so forth. So more to come. So now it's important, after we have started the pilots, we are now creating an end-to-end flow and support this by our GenAI solution. And you see here on the examples, of course, we are evaluating all, not only Aleph Alpha, but all existing startups and all existing solutions right now, and try to understand how we can use them to optimize and create more efficient processes. So this is one aspect. And on the next, if you click once again, I'm just now extending the idea also to other, say, forecast to fulfill processes. So that's why it's so important to start with business architecture where it's laid out what are the end-to-end processes that are available for the whole company and cover all the business capabilities. And here then we add, by mining the data, the GenAI solution to create more efficiencies on the long run. And this sums up the strategy of ZF in terms of, first, creating the one set of processes in our digital core that basically lays the foundation and creates all the data necessary. And then second, add the AI components, analytically, I haven't talked about too much, but of course, analytically in the same way, and generative AI to then help us to automate these processes. And with this, I would open up for any kind of question, and I hope I was not too fast. And by the way, I can't see you all, I see only myself. So if there's any question, I would now hand over to Christopher as a moderator. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rene. Hopefully you can also hear me, right? And maybe you can. Yeah, excellent. Okay. Good. So thank you so much. And I think you outlined so well there the architecture and the underlying principles and foundation you needed to build to move to this next stage of generative AI and obviously pointing towards more things in the future. Before we go to some direct questions for Rene, I would also like to bring on our other panelists so that we're also going to broaden this perspective across the supply chain a bit more. So non-disrupted by software, I can also welcome our two other panelists. So please join me on stage. We have, I'll start with Pieterjan. Pieterjan from Volvo, been with Volvo since 2014, variety of logistics functions, and now was leading on vehicle logistics IT, and is now leading in purchasing across digital strategies for Volvo. We're going to talk more with him. And Ronald has a career in high tech. He worked for Foxconn, HP, and since 21 is CEO of Venturis. And we'll talk a bit more about the role that Venturis is playing in the supply chain as well. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for joining us together with Rene. But I think, Pieterjan, let me turn first to you, because you've seen now from ZF let's say the foundation that they built, the architecture to support that cloud and across production and logistics. Tell us a little bit about Volvo's journey right now, where you're at and where you're looking to go, and we can pick up from there.
Yeah, excellent. First of all, Rene, impressive presentation. I feel a bit sad looking at it because we are not as far as you are. So I'm a bit blown away. We at Volvo Cars, we are doing a couple of big transformations, and as I told this morning during breakfast, we are basically rebuilding our complete house, and that is building it from foundation to the roof. And for us, the foundation is obviously also the architecture and the process architecture, but also the foundation of data. We have failed a couple of times already in our data strategy and our data governance. We applied that a couple of years ago by starting off, we need to become data-driven. And everybody in the company was running around, we need to become data-driven, we need to become fact-driven, so everybody was sent out with a message, start to use the data. And everybody created digital data teams, and everybody was putting an own architecture in place and was using different lakes and was using different technologies like Snowflake, and then on top of that Power BI and Tableau. And in the end, we have ended up with a completely siloed architecture, and we cannot connect the data to each other. We talk about visibility and connectivity here. So basically what we have done now is doing a retake on that. We are changing our approach a little bit. We are changing strategy. We are moving our data people from the digital side into the business side, because data is a business topic connected to the process. So that's the first part of our foundation. Then in the middle, of course, we have our legacy. We are quite an old company already, and our applications are as old as our company. Last week I celebrated the 50th birthday of an after-sales application in mainframe. Super good, robust system. It's a dinosaur that functions and walks, but we need to exchange that again. And that's only one example out of 10, 20 examples and transformations we need to do. And then on top of that, we have an ambition to create that connectivity over the different silos, and we want to implement an APS. We have partnered up recently with Kinaxis, and basically we are doing transformation on top of transformation on top of transformation. And then on our executive level, of course, AI is knocking on the door. Each meeting we are going in, it's let's use AI. Okay, how? So we are a bit stuck there, Rene, in that aspect. So I'm super impressed how far you guys have come already. We are using a bit of AI with the co-pilots from Microsoft, etc. So it's super powerful, but we are not there yet because our foundation is not set yet.
Yeah. Well, but don't be too sad, Pieterjan, because I think if we look out into the audience, there's probably more people that sort of nod in agreement with your current journey and struggles, and that's the point of bringing this all together. Rene, did you want to make a point there? I think.
Yeah, just only one small sentence, because I think just to build on it, it's super important. I have so many other business functions, also in our company and everywhere else, who treat generative AI like, the magic wand. Like, now finally we have the answer. Now we'll solve it. And exactly what you said is super right. We have to get your data right, get the processes right, and then use Gen AI. And if you don't do it in that order, you will have small incremental efficiency gains only. You don't really gain. It's very important to keep this serious.
Yeah, absolutely. Ronald, from your perspective, what do you see across your customers that you work in the supply chain? How will you sort of rate them between what we've seen and what Pieterjan has described? Give us some perspective there.
Yeah, this session has been very interesting this morning already. I think JC was very transparent what the situation he's been dealing with. The same is now with Pieterjan. That for me has been quite interesting the last 2.5 years dealing with all these automotive OEMs, let's say the more traditional ones and the new ones which are coming into the market. And you're right, it's interesting that AI has been dominating a lot of these events and etc. But we still see most of those OEMs, and the same happened to me in my career, who are really working, call it semi-automated, which in principle means manual, right? Using still Excel spreadsheets and what have you. And even if they have some level of sophistication, or even if they buy some IT or visibility solutions, when it comes down to exception management, and in the world of today, it's almost like only exception management, it's still going back to manual, still going back. And when you are manual, you cannot apply AI because, again, exactly what Rene said in those steps, you need to move from manual right into digital, and from digital into digitalization, and then you can apply, of course, anything, Gen GPT or whatever. So a lot of companies are already talking about AI, but they're still working completely almost or semi-manual. So there's a long way to go in that respect. So
yeah. Rene, starting with Rene on this, I mean, to build on your journey, data quality and data standardization, surely a key foundation there. But I'm sure you had to battle to even get to where you were. Tell us a little bit about some of the challenges and how you overcame them, some of the lessons we can share with our audience.
So first of all, also to put things right, I'm now 3 years with the company, and I was asked to join because previously our situation was also not so super aligned, say. So we are now cleaning up the same situation. So, we are on our journey. Second, all these new fancy Gen AI technology is super interesting, but also it's expensive. So you always need to be in a very good situation that there's a business case with every project you implement, because the costs can really very, very fast rise quite, because it's per token. And second and thirdly, of course, high benefit in Gen AI has high benefits, comes also with high risks. The one I just would like to mention for everyone, there are 3 risks. The most important, from my point of view, is hallucination. So you must not trust, especially in software, for example. Software created by Copilot Gen AI must always be tested by humans. So human is not only in the loop, the human has the responsibility. And this is true for every implementation that we do, that at the end there's a human like a check. And I think this is necessary. Also, we have created an ethical council because we need, in going on in future with more and more possibilities to automate, we also need to ask ourselves, what do we want? Because I'm personally convinced that Gen AI will slowly turn itself into the same, say, societal debate that we have with sustainability. So it's companies need to position themselves as today for becoming green, and tomorrow becoming responsible in AI. So both is important, so that we, as a company, you need to tackle it right from the beginning. That's what we do. Second risk, of course, is cybersecurity. Everything that don't need to really go into detail, but everything you do already today on cybersecurity, you need an extra effort also on the generative AI. Here is one additional risk, that is, are you training with the know-how of your company and outside of the company system, so that afterwards you have used a solution sufficiently, someone else knows what you know. So that's important to understand from the beginning and find mitigation strategies. And thirdly, of course, the risk is IP infringement, because let's go back to the software code. The moment software code is created, we all know it's created on base of trained information. So where does this information come from? And is there any possibility that the code created has a sort of IP infringement? Is it unique to us? Is it our code? Can we later sell it if we are in the business of selling software, and so on and so forth? So IP infringement activities also need to be understood. And here, of course, the European AI Act and everything else also needs to be applied, and so on and so forth. So that's all of these we also tackle, and that is on purpose. We said we want to slow down the process. We are far in advance because we started very early, basically because I'm a nerd. But I advise everybody to take these risks seriously for the company, because you need to find your own answer in the company.
Yeah.
All these.
Thank you, Rene. Pieterjan, as you look to the next steps, what are some of the barriers you've identified that you need to address when we're looking specifically at supply chain and logistics and those data standards and quality?
One is still the silo thinking. I think we are not getting rid of that yet. I think it was coming up a couple of times already today. We are organizing ourselves more from an end-to-end perspective, which is positive. We are implementing data hubs. We are implementing transformation offices that are really looking to the end-to-end KPIs and also the cost to market, which is leading us to another aspect of running the business. A siloed decision is not always the right decision anymore. And then, of course, we are coming closer to fact-driven decisions, and I think it was touched by you, Rene. It's trust. I think we also need to make a step to trust and understand the data, and quite often we are not there yet. When we come up with super concrete examples on what is good or bad to do, quite often that's challenged by management, that they are saying this cannot be possible. And there you feel it will take also a transformation on the people side to get into that mindset to accept that not everything is coming out of our stomach or our brain anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Ron, you identify any other areas?
Yeah, I echo what Pieterjan said, but maybe more specifically, what we have seen is that a lot of companies are looking at traditional IT solutions, let's call it that way, and still continue to operate in these silos and trying to connect. What we believe in is really connecting all the dots, right, in the entire supply chain. I think we heard a couple of presentations this morning about how difficult it is to connect to all these suppliers, no matter if they are component suppliers or trading partners in logistics and what have you. And you have to make it easy. And even if you connect them, it doesn't mean they're going to use them. And they have to use it, otherwise you don't get the data. So how do you motivate them to get the data? And one way to motivate them is, we have seen a lot, and I think not only in automotive, but in supply chain in general, there is definitely an interest in sharing information and sharing data, but at the same time companies are very skeptical because they don't know what's going to happen with this data, and even if they use IT companies, what are they doing with the data, right? Are they collecting it, are they mining it, are they selling it? So that is where the trust comes in, and there is technology for that, right? As you know, we are using private blockchain for that, where data is immutable. You can share it in a very trusted environment. And that is where, we hope to support the industry, right? Because I think that the trust, collaboration, connectivity, these three elements we have seen as a fundamental issue in making a step forward and generating that high quality data. I think a data-driven supply chain starts with connectivity in that respect.
Mm-hmm. Coming back to Pieterjan, I mean, there is a long journey here, and it will take time, but there are also perhaps some other quick wins, other areas before maybe you get into generative AI and other areas. What are some areas of competitive advantage that you see from Volvo's point of view by taking this journey that you're on now?
One of the topics we are focusing upon, and it's not AI, but it's automation. And I think for us that is the first step of people that are doing execution, making them the experts of tomorrow. They know the process, they know the data, they are the best ones to help us to take the right strategical decisions, but we are not getting there today because they are continuously thrown under operational challenges. So on the automation journey, we are looking very deeply already in many processes we are having and making the small changes that is making life easier for the end user. And I think that's the first step we need to make before going in some kind of AI setup. It might be a goods receivable on an invoice. It might be an event trigger and a planning system, whatever. Yeah. And there we see that a lot of potential is coming out already, but it can only start with involving the people that are doing the daily operations today. And one of the pitfalls we had before was that we saw all of those initiatives, the data ones, the automation ones, the AI ones, as pure digital initiatives. We brought in experts to create automation, to create reports, to start to look at AI. But in the end, you need to involve the end user, the daily user. And that's a learning we took, and we are really accelerating on that journey. And any transformation, we are involving more and more business people from step -1, basically already, rather than in step 10 or in step 11. And that gives so much value. And also it brings people on board in the journey. I think JC said it this morning that it's super important to create the awareness of what we are trying to create and the involvement.
Absolutely. Before I open for some more questions, maybe one more to you, Rene. You obviously talk about the ZF Cloud and being able to migrate all the plants and other functions in it, but if maybe we'll make Pieterjan feel a little bit better, I don't think that all the logistics and supply chain are probably yet fully there in terms of connecting the wider picture, right? And so what does the roadmap for ZF look like there? I mean, soon we're going to talk about Container X in the next session, so surely this is probably one part of it, but including that and others, give us a sense of other opportunities you see there.
Yeah, so first of all, clearly, I was focusing on Gen AI because it's so hot, but I totally agree. We need to make use of all automation levels like RPA or just simply connecting machines and collecting all the data. For ZF, we have more than 200 plants, so it's quite a journey to connect all equipments. We are roughly half through. So there's still a way to go to connect more machines and more plants and so on. Same with the processes. So we are on the way. We are in the midst of the transformation here. And as usual, the transformation is so long that during the transformation, you change parts of the technology. That's normal. And also, everything that's fancy and new must not be treated like we win the next Nobel Prize. We have to use it to reduce manual, boring tasks, because that is the biggest efficiency gain that we have. So it's not that we solve the most complex riddle first. No, the most easy we do first, and we do it and we scale them. So that's basically we are on our journey to implement and connect all the machines, then implement and connect all the processes, integrate them, and then also at the same time successfully implement all the AI-driven automation solutions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the audience? We have a question. We'll start in the middle and then we'll come to the front. So you had there, Katie, exactly.
Hi everyone, Jess Price from Nissan UK. In a world where we all take advantage of increasing amounts of data available to us, we share it more within the supply chain, and we manipulate that data with AI, how do we retain a sense of individuality or company ethos while using and taking advantage of all of that?
Very good question. We want to start. Maybe I'll turn to Pieterjan first, and we can.
It's a super good question, I think, and we discussed it this morning a little bit during breakfast as well. What is the win-win for everybody? What is the win for the supplier? What is the win for the OEM? And that's a difficult one because all of those discussions for me are ending up with gross margin discussions. And we discussed this morning that tier 1 suppliers or tier 2 suppliers are not really hungry to share their inventory levels, which is normal because that's where they gain the money. So I think we really need to think about a completely different ecosystem in the automotive industry. And I think talking from our perspective now, but we as OEMs, we have been a bit arrogant sometimes, or maybe not sometimes, arrogant against our logistics service providers, against our tier 1 suppliers, and I think we need to change that vibe a little bit and really sit around the table to see what are the wins from both ends, but not to be forgotten what you said, that needs to be a secure environment as well to work in. So not a clear answer, more a reflection.
Ron, anything you'd add there?
Yeah, I think it starts with trust. I think JC said, right, a contract has a value, but trust in general, right, that's even more important. And trust you can also support with technology, but I think it's the overall transformation indeed, where everybody needs to understand what's in it for them, right, as a company. And we do a lot of connectivity for a lot of big OEMs, and they're always asking us, don't you get any pushback, right? Are they collaborating? And we are approaching them, and not only by saying you must connect, we really explain to them what's in it for them, how they can have operational efficiencies, maybe not commercially, but there has to be incentives. I think that was another word that was mentioned this morning. And I think in a true collaboration, there is always a win-win, there is a partnership. And if you can then make sure that that is done, right, in a very trustworthy, secure environment, that they know it will only be shared with the parties which are allowed to receive it and not anybody else, then I think it can work. And we have seen it can work in that respect.
Absolutely. We had a question right in the front from the very young lady.
Only in my head. Rene, question to yourself on your journey around first AI projects and the first pilots. How much did you rely on a team of experts in that space to really spin the projects around fast versus how much you reach out to the end user and employee community for the initial ideas around AI? And then how did you actually choose which ones to go with?
Thank you.
Oh, very. And I guess you talk about the generative AI, not the AI we started some years ago. So I will answer in this way, in this direction. First of all, I would like to make a small comment. We love Volvo and Nissan and BYD and Mercedes-Benz. So nobody's. But now, so it was in the beginning of the year, Gen AI. And I basically did a shout out in the company, and I didn't care who reports to whom and who is manager and who is not. I just said, okay, who has interest to work with me on a strategy and a concept? And I asked, I made sure that we call it divisions, so our business units, they're all represented, and the corporate functions like logistics and controlling and HR and so on, they're all represented. And of course, we in ZF, we are lucky. We have two technical departments that deliver extreme good expertise. The one is in our IT. The other is in our R&D. So the software is in R&D, and the technology and the infrastructure is in IT. And they came with really good, say, technical know-how. But your question was super perfect because the technique is never the answer. The answer is what I want. And that's why I invited everyone, and I'm here today. So I'm very open, and I want to have a group of people sitting together, and we did something that felt very unusual. We did a complete one-day workshop with a lot of seminar rooms in our facility. So we asked people to literally come. So no virtual meetings. I know I'm saying that being virtual to you, but don't bear with me. And we did a whole day, 8 to 8, basically, workshop on understanding, okay, the first third was technology. We had to really train or educate people about, okay, what is possible in the next, say, month and then years. So a bit of a trend and radar with external speakers. And then we relied on everybody who had ideas. And we added technical capabilities to the ideas. And the ideas were leading. So we split up in 4 different groups, and they were made up to departments in our organization. And everybody was asked, okay, what are your first ideas? And what is your moonshot? What do you think, like in 5 years or 10 years or whatsoever, we would like to do? And everybody came up with crazy ideas. So that's, brainstorming, and it's innovation or creativity management, to not block yourself and let people who know what they do every day in either a corporate function, a logistics department, or in the business department with sales, and let them say, okay, this is what I desperately need today, and this is what I need to do tomorrow. And then this all was in a series of succeeding workshops was summed up. We have now a strategy paper, 60 pages long, where we clearly lined out our generative AI strategy for the board to understand and align and approve. And then also we have now a list of 40, and I'm counting, it's growing, of use cases that either are applicable today, and 2 of them I showed, so the helpbot thingies, and some moonshots where we think we are really going for something brand new that would like to achieve. And even so, most of the moonshots are not clear whether we're ever going to achieve them, but at least we have an idea what we would like to apply with generative AI.
Thank you, Rene. Any other questions from the audience whilst we have you? There's one question right here in the middle. Who's faster? Come on. Oh, there we are. It's coming to you now.
Yes, so thank you. My name is Daniel. I'm also within Volvo Cars. So a question to you, Rene. When you have identified those use cases, which potentially could be for Gen AI, what do you find sort of a threshold for the data quality of the different products, data products that will go in there? You mentioned that it's quite expensive to use Gen AI. When do you know when you have passed the threshold for when it's actually going to be applicable to use Gen AI, or are you testing? Like the video there showed the data lake with a wave. If you write an apple, you get a pear. Are you testing it like that, or is there a threshold, you would say? And how do you work with the data quality around it?
So, yeah, first of all, the data quality is exactly, this is our limiting factor. I wouldn't say threshold, is more like a limiting factor. Good news is, in our company situation, we are now rolling out this really integrated process landscape. So I'm creating consistent integrated data that let me also add AI-driven automation to it. However, I cannot go wild and crazy in the whole world. In ZF, because we're still not through with the rollout of our process landscape. And if the data are disconnected, AI will also only have a limited effect. So I'm totally with you, and that's why it's super important to have the application or the architecture and the subsequent rollouts and implementation really laid out and drive them towards success. And now, if you say limiting factor or thresholds, also in terms of where we can apply it, is there like an area you cannot? Honestly, we have had now for months, I'm every week, there's the team, we're sitting together every week because there's so many new ideas, and I don't see any limitation. That's why I'm so convinced Gen AI is not analytic AI, it's not a tool. It will change dramatically. I think about legal. They need to evaluate documents for whatever, next M&A or whatever they do. They will use these to summarize and find flaws or find sufficient information. Then purchasing, you need to value all the contracts. Then right now I've started, I want to have an AI. We have our cloud, we have data from the cloud, from machines, and I want people on shop floor to talk with the computer and ask, why is this machine not so efficient? And then the computer, so the Gen AI will ask, okay, give me the name of the machine. And then they say Peter, Paul, and Mary, those are the ones. And it will then create on the fly citizen development code that creates on the fly reports and shows the worker, here is my analysis of the data stream that I have. So these are the OAEs, this is the efficiency. Here are out whatever whatever the reports will come up with. And I want this dialogue for people on shop floor talk with the machine, so to speak. Again, I don't see any limit. There is so much potential that we could do that's why I gave the idea of the graveyard of pilot projects, because we must, as companies, avoid having individual isolated solutions. Then you have spaghettis of solutions. We need then to combine them, to bring one step after the other and say, okay, with this information, I feed the next generative AI and so on and so forth. So that's, I think this is what we're doing right now. I don't see any limitation, to be very honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, maybe Ronald, turning to you, the spaghetti of IT there. So, where do you see? I mean, Venturis obviously works also with blockchain. How does blockchain fit into this picture? Is it a way to help make something more solid of the spaghetti, so to say?
Yeah, I think how I got fascinated in private blockchain, and I emphasize on private blockchain. It has the reason why companies come to us is in one area is I think it was already highlighted the importance by Rene, is first of all connecting the entire value chain. So not only, let's say, trading partners, suppliers, and what have you, but also applications, functionality, telemetry, all these kind of things. And when you can connect them in an easy way, that already creates, right, one source of the truth. That all becomes another buzzword, but at least one area where all information, all data comes together, and that you can use, right, for analytical AI eventually. Very important is, of course, the high security which private blockchain has. Not repeating, right, that helps, right, in sharing information, but also it means that any status information, any document, any picture, whatever you upload is encrypted, is immutable, has a data stamp, has a longitude, a latitude, so it has a legal value. So that helps a lot in the quality of the data in that respect, because an Excel sheet you can still manipulate, you can do anything, so that helps. So and then the overall high security, right, of a total database, that helps a lot. So yes, from that spaghetti, right, we can create one network. It's not like a platform like some of the TMS or the solution or the visibility platforms are provided, because they put themselves or the customer in the middle. We put the customer on top, so they can orchestrate the entire value chain. And that means the ordinary flow, but also the exceptional flow. In case you want to make changes, you stay in the network very quickly, and all the other parties are getting the same information and the data at the same time. So, yeah, it has been a journey for us, quite a bit, but it's, the use cases are very promising and customers are excited. Yeah.
Fantastic. I can probably take one more audience question if there is one. Otherwise, I will... we'll take the last audience question there.
Hi everybody, so I'm Sichuan Lu Suta from Infineon and also in automotive supply chain area. I do have maybe a question from a different angle. So first of all, I'm really also passionate about AI and automation and all those journeys. So maybe for me, it's quite easy, let's say, to say, convince me and let's go on the journey together. But there are also, let's say, a certain amount of people who are not really having a similar idea or certain, they have concerns, no matter, let's thinking loud, that maybe one day machine will replace some the work of human and I will not be needed anymore. I mean, those ideas you maybe all heard about anyhow already. Therefore, I'm really curious for, no matter for ZF or for other companies, do you also have such roadmap or, for convince other people also to go with you to this journey, or you have other plan for those people? Because in the end, I see the benefit to go for automation and so, but on the other hand, you also need to convince other people to go with you. Yeah.
So, sorry?
No, I think JC mentioned it this morning. Not sure if you were here, Rene, this morning, but I think you can look at AI in several ways. It's dominating, right? But if you see it from a complementary point of view, and that's the way we look at it as well, right? We see some opportunities eventually on Gen AI, right? For maybe even generating software potentially, right? I mean, why not? So, but we see it also more as complementary, as more instead of a leading technology. So I think that is something which still, I think we're only at the front end right now in what AI, how it can help us, how it can work with. AI is not new in a lot of other, especially in the medical industry, right? AI has done fantastic things already in that respect. I think only now in automotive and in other industries is where we now start applying AI in several ways. And maybe one other comment, Chris, in that respect, we're focusing a lot on technology. It's also the question, why are we even using it, right? Are we using it because we like the technology, we want that new technology? Are we doing it to generate cost savings? Are we doing it to satisfy our customer, right? We haven't even talked about customer, because at the end of the day, right, is that why we are doing it? So I think there's a long way to go how AI fits in a strategy. There is a concern, but I think there's always a concern for new technology, so there's a long way to go. Marketing plays an important role in that. So, but I think events like this help a lot. So, but yeah, there's a long journey to go still, I believe.
Pieterjan, how are you bringing teams with you? I mean, whether it's AI or because you're looking at many other areas of automation in your processes. So how are you addressing those fears and concerns to bring the users with you?
I think the fear is there a little bit, but within Volvo Cars, I think we have been squeezing the lemon a bit too much already. In all transparency, we have been growing during the last couple of years, and we have been asking more and more from our people. And now suddenly they get a helping hand, because they can interact with an engine that helps their daily operations, and they can finally start to focus on some other topics such as strategy. So my impression is that, at least in our company, the people are ready for it and they are welcoming in it. Does that mean that job content will not change? No. I think job content will change drastically. Does that mean that some of the jobs will not disappear? No, some of the jobs will disappear. But I think it's everybody's individual responsibility as well to develop themselves, to make them ready to cooperate with the bots and the engines that are coming up. So I think we are more ready than we think we are.
Yeah. And Rene, maybe to conclude your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Look, first of all, you had the notion of the machines taking over and rule the world kind of approach. If you have these people who are driven by American blockbuster movies, I always start with this device. It's a Jabra. This is full of AI, because it knows what sounds to transmit or broadcast and what sounds to block. And how does it know? Because it's, of course, trained with AI. Then your Google Maps, your Netflix recommendations, and so on. So we live for years already in a world where AI plays a major role and adds benefit. And this is how I lead the discussion typically, if somebody is open to discuss, of course. There are nowadays people who feel like they don't want to be convinced, but this benefit. So there is this notion of Hollywood blockbuster ideas really has no impact to what we do in our companies. However, I do see risks. It is very true that we're going to change the content of jobs, and we must always have an understanding what is the know-how we want to keep to be able to drive, and what is the know-how we want to share with AI. And here we need to have an open dialogue. That's why I came up with an ethical council. I think this is useful to have at least a discussion to create a plan what to do. Once you have a plan, you can communicate the plan and bring people on board. And especially since this technology will interfere with each and everyone, like everyone. There is not a single person anymore that will not have some interaction with, not a bad one, but interaction with generative AI in future. So we need to have a constant dialogue and work against fears, work against resistance of change, and come up with good explanation, and also find ways what a company wants. And and last but not least, besides all the risks that are there, there's also benefits, and benefits you can measure easily in money or time gained. And that's always a convincing argument at the very end of this process.
Coming back to our headline of why it's a competitive advantage. So I think those are important points to end on. And as I said earlier, and Rene, I know you're a musician and music fan, if AI can give us the Beatles back, I think we could live with it in other parts of our work as well. But I want to thank Rene for your great presentation, despite the disruption, Pieterjan and Ronald for really sharing openly and honestly the challenges we're facing and the roadmap. This has been a great discussion here, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.